Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be having a look at 4 heavy tank games in 3 different heavy tanks. Now this is taken as highlights from the recent heavy tank stream I did covering off on the tier 9 heavies. I saved this footage specifically, and I'm showing it again, one, because I'm pretty certain not many people saw all these games. To watch the entire stream, it's like 2 hours long, is kind of unlikely. But more, I want to talk about a couple of really important concepts in the game and how we judge far too often the value of a contribution to a game simply by the damage. There is so much more involved, and there are so many more nuances to the gameplay that just don't really take account of everything that gets done by a tank. The Conqueror is a tank I absolutely adore, and you're going to see why. In both these games, I do over 4,000 damage. In this one, I don't think I play particularly well. One of the problems with the Conk is it doesn't have a very good chassis in terms of armor profile, and if they fire premium, there's not a lot you can do if you don't have a good angle to deflect, i.e. you're slightly above them, or when they're slightly above you and the gun's not working, which is rare, then you can really struggle, even when they're just getting little love taps like that from that AMIGOS CDC, who plays very well. But look where I am. Now, I'm not saying this is the wrong thing to be doing. The Tiger 2's got that position there ahead of me. I can't go and side scrape this tank. It doesn't have a particularly good profile for side scraping, but that's not it. Like, you can't have 2 tanks in the same position side scraping. And this AMIGOS CDC is just all over me. God bless his cotton socks. And all his shots are going in and all my shots are not going in, which is tough. And that's not a normal thing for the Conqueror. The gun doesn't normally do that, but, you know, we slowly come good. But this is not a frontline heavy tank. This is not a tank that you can take up to the front line and just go shot training. And by that I mean, you can see that's an AMIGOS CDC. It has reasonable amounts of penetration, but it's not like some kind of crazy laser beam, and he's getting a lot of good RNG. Like, they're not the easiest shots in the world for him to be hitting, and everything I'm firing seems to be hitting anywhere but the target, and yet I'm still contributing to the game. I'm still getting shots off, and I'm still there to take advantage of any kind of mistakes these guys might make. We're down 2 tanks, and I've lost half my hit point pool, and I've really got to pull my socks up and start playing seriously, so I do. However, I would just like to point out that things would have gone a lot better here for the team if I had been in, say, an E75 or an ST1, and if I had just gone to that position that the Tiger 2 was in and just side-scraped the thing away. No one would have been able to take any shots down here. Now, that's not saying that we would have certainly been in a better position or that we would have won the game for sure. That's not what I'm saying at all. And to be fair, there's certain things the Conqueror does better than the E75, which is just not even up for debate. Like shots like that, which finally start going in. But the E75 wouldn't have done anywhere near as much damage. The E75 does not have the high ceiling damage potential of the Conqueror. It just doesn't have that gun, which is the thing that the Conqueror really brings to the table. And I'm not sure what was going on here, because I am hitting shots, like I'm missing the most ridiculously easy shots, and everything is not going in. I'm giving this AMIGOS CDC every chance in the world. We finally hit a shot. I mean, that was just terrible. So now that the targets are up there, you can see we can start doing a bit of side scoping. We can start doing something a little bit different. And they've pushed in and they're looking to get the kills, and, well, they might, because they felt like they were on top and they were in the ascendancy, and suddenly they're not. And then the Conqueror starts coming into its own. And this is something I want to really talk about now. Tanks like the Conqueror are tanks that are real bullies against particular sets of vehicles. The Conqueror is a high DPM tier 9 heavy with a fantastic gun. You wouldn't know it from watching this game, but it will become apparent in the next game. And you can hit with Hess shots, which do a fantastically large amount of damage. and you can penetrate easily, and it's all well and good. And even though we had a bad game there, like, I feel like we played that one fairly badly, and I wanted to include it specifically, even though I had 2 Conqueror games here. I wanted to include that one so you could see that that was bad play. But we still did 4,000 damage. Now, if you looked at just the results screen on that game, you would think, wow, that Conqueror, what a player. He's pulled off a 4K game. We were down by 2 or 3 tanks, and we've come screaming home because that guy really knows what he's doing. And the fact of the matter was, nearly all of that damage was done using the hit point pool of the rest of my team. And some tanks are built to do that. The Conqueror is a heavium. It doesn't look like one because it's freaking massive. I mean, look at that Tiger 2 next to it. That's a big tank with the Porsche turret and all. Look how wide the Conqueror is. It is absolutely enormous. It is the biggest tank in this game. And that's saying something when you think about the fact that you've got a Tiger 2, which is a proper heavy, IS-8s. They're all out there, and the Conqueror just dwarfs them. It is, in fact, much bigger than people expect when they get to drive it for the first time. And one of the reasons I think why I do so well in this tank, and I do very well in it, even historically on my standard account when I was playing on the Asia server, I was well over 70%. I think it was nearly 75%. Well over 2k average damage. It was a good number on the tank. Because I think that the biggest advantage I have when I play Blitz is that I don't get suckered into this whole macho crap that goes on. People will tell you that you're at the back, or I mean, I had a guy going on at me in a stream today saying you were camping. I was in an ISU 130 in a tier 8 match with a whole bunch of tier 8 heavies. And people like to say this because there's got to be an excuse. There's got to be a reason. The other team couldn't just possibly be better for once. There has to be a reason why you're losing. It can't just be that the other guys played the game better and used the tanks that they had better than the team that you're on. And if you lose, then it's got to be because the team's all noobs. And obviously, that's why you lost. It's not always the case. And a tank like the Conqueror is an excellent way of illustrating this point. It does things very, very differently than the tank that we're about to see after this, which is the ST1. And even more differently than the tank that we're going to see after that, which is the AMX 5120, which is some bizarre medium heavy clipping hybrid that is beautiful to play, but absolutely gets murdered and butchered by so many players when I see them playing in it. The game is about positional versatility. What does that even mean? It's like a basketball term where you want everyone to be able to handle the ball and shoot threes. You don't want to just have a center who does nothing. You want to have a spread across the team of the same kind of abilities. But that's not the case in tanks. In tanks, each tank tends to have a specific purpose. And that gives the whole team that positional versatility. You want to have part of your team that's able to hit shots at range and penetrate. You want to have part of your team that's able to deliver big alpha strikes and intimidate. You want to have tanks on your team that can bounce shots and spot targets and hold that front line. And you want to have tanks on your team that are super quick and can get to flanks and pepper bad guys. And you can see the Conqueror can do so many things well when given the opportunity. And this is a much, much better game, obviously. And look at this Hesh going nuts. 2 500 plus rolls in a row. We're up to 2,400 damage. We're going to clear a tank in no short order, buddy. Ta-ta. Suddenly we're shooting well again. Who knows? These are just the things that happen. So it's 4 and 4. And this is why I love so many different tanks. I look at what they can do. And even an old fat tuggy bloke like me, if he's using his brain and he's honest about stuff, can look at a tank and go, you know what? This is what the gun does. This is what the armor does. Maybe I should put it in a position where it doesn't have to tank a lot of shots and it's going to be able to take a lot of shots because it's got the gun to hit it. Whereas you're running, say, a E100. The gun on the E100 is kind of arse. A better example is, say, an IS-5. An IS-5 is a horrific gun. I got a great video the other day from someone in my... I haven't looked at it yet. The name, I can't remember the name, but I haven't had a chance to really record many videos of late. I've been very, very busy. But it was an IS-5 game. And it was basically stating crazy RNG, IS5. And if you want to send me a video, by the way, that's the email address there, bushkagaming@gmail.com. Include the tank type, damage, and particulars in the subject line. It was basically stating the fact that he was in an IS5 and he had like a 5k game, but he was sniping and it was just crazy that all the shots were going in. And that's exactly right. The Conqueror, the problem I have, and this is, I know I keep dancing around this subject, but if you think a heavy tank does one thing, you're the problem. If you think a TD does one thing, you're the problem. If you think all medium tanks do exactly the same thing, you're the problem. If you want to blame the team for you not winning because you lost 4 of your last 5 games, then you're the problem, because the Blitz is not a game where you count your stats over 5 games. They're 7-minute long games. The chances of you winning exactly 50% of your games if you're a 50% player are stupidly low. It's not going to happen. It's so low as to be impossible. It's not like you can go win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. 60% players, they'll go off and win 12 in a row and then they'll lose 8 or 10. Like that's how it goes. It's not like you start the game, you're a 60% player, you should win every game. No, you should lose 40% of your games. That's what the stats say. That's who you are. So when you see a guy like that was actually a game in the Conqueror where we played it well. We got to the flank. When we didn't have shots, we moved back around to the heavy line, and we actually weren't afraid to put our hit point pool on the line and get some damage back. Now we move on to possibly the strongest tank in Tier 9. And that's saying something, but I believe this is an incredible vehicle, the ST1. It is absolutely incredible. I listed it as my favorite Tier 9 heavy in the series that I did on my favorite tanks, and I stand by that. It's an incredible vehicle. This is a Tier 10 game. You're going to see there are 4 heavy tanks. There is a 183, there's a Waffle Tractor, there's an M103, there's a MBT 70, there's a Centurion 7-1. There's a lot of tanks there that have good guns or gun depression or good turrets. This is a tank that is a super heavy. This is the tank that needs to be on the front line. And this is the tank that doesn't have the gun to deal with things like I dealt with them in that Conqueror there. There's just no way around this. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks directly in front of me. Our IS4 has gone very, very aggressively. Our Conqueror is up with me and he's doing a very good job of just putting his gun in play without putting his tank in play, which is important. I'm calling for help because the rest of the team is basically still screwing around in spawn. Like, they're all the way back there. Look at the turret on this thing. It can side scrape. It can go hull down. It can bounce shots. It's got the best overall game, in my opinion, at Tier 9. It can go toe-to-toe with Tier 10 heavies and absolutely stop this for me was my favorite game of the entire stream. Yet we don't get to 4K. And we got to 4K on both the Conqueror games. We're going to get well over 4K for the AMX 5120 game. And this is what we talk about when we talk about the ability to influence the game without doing massive stinking wads of damage. No one can really push up here alone and damage my tank. That was a 183 firing Hesh into the top of my tank because he couldn't pen anywhere else. And we're now trading with him. The Conch is right up my date, which I don't like very much. And we're losing tanks, but at the same time, we're holding this line. And we're the best heavy that we've got on the whole team for doing this. And this is where this tank should be. Tanks like the Mouse, the E75, the VK4502B, the IS7, the ST1, they're the kind of tanks where, look, that's an IS7 just firing HE at me. He's so frustrated. He's got no other choices. They're the kind of tanks where they are area denial tanks to a large degree. You want to move up on me? That's fine. Like, they could all charge me, but they don't know where all the tanks are behind me. We've got a 183 still sitting at the back, and that's intimidating everyone. There's a lot of tanks unspotted, and they know that I'm going to keep them lit. I'm going to keep them on this bouncing 1300, bouncing Hesh. Could not get through that turret, that monstrous turret. this was a much, much better game. And all we really did was drive it forward and play sensibly. This is the way the tank is meant to be played. Every time that you take a shot in this tank, that is a good shot for your team. This is the tank that you want all the red guys to be shooting at. And if you're in this tank, then that's your job. This is a tank that should not be at the back of the map. This is the tank that doesn't have the gun to do what I was doing in the Conqueror. This is the tank that can win games because it has such a wonderful set of attributes and skills. The ability to go hull down, the ability to side scrape, the ability to bounce, those are things that can turn games on their head. And I was really proud of that game. I thought that was an excellent use of the ST1. I thought that was an excellent way to play it. 3,800 damage, only a second class, Confederates, you know, but I think we absolutely stopped them from getting nasty. So we played those two Conqueror games. You saw that we went 4,000, 4,300, whatever it was. And now we're going to jump into the AMX 5120. Now this is like a medium. This is like, look at the mobility on the thing. Look at the way it moves. Our mediums, God knows what they're doing. We've got a Cent, we've got a Super Pershing, we've got a T-54. They go to the middle of the map. If you're in a medium, half your job is spotting and securing the flank. It really is. And the other half is not dying early because you YOLO too hard. Like that, if you can get those two things done, like spot targets without dying, you are an effective part of a team. You are just 100% going to be effective in your team. Our 54, our Cent 1, our Super Pershing have all gone to the middle of the map, and watch them get gobbled up alive and squeezed between multiple tanks. It's not really like a crime, is it? Like they chose the wrong way to go, you know? And they're going to get punished for it. They're going to lose hit points, and they're very likely going to lose the game. A lot of people, by the rationale of lunacy that is, if you are at the front, you're doing things right, think that that is the way you play. You need to get in your head that the way you play is giving the other side damage without taking damage back. Both sides are probably going to have roughly a similar hit point pool when this whole thing kicks off. If you can make the other guy bleed more than your team, you guys will win. I mean, that's how it works. And if your job is to roll out a mouse and do 1,500 damage and bounce 25 shots, while the 183 on your team pumps out 1,300 damage HESH shells, then go and do it, man. And it's absolutely the way to do it. In my opinion, a lot of people play mediums too passively. I think it would be a good idea if you're in a medium to spot and then go passive, not to just be passive and wait for targets to be spotted. But what about a tank like a Super Pershing? That's a medium. Well, he's not super mobile. He can't do that. He can't get in there, spot 5 tanks, and then escape without getting belted himself. A T-62A can. A Leopard 1, probably. A Super Pershing, not so much. Type 61 can fill a little bit of that role, but for the most part, I think that's like the worst tier 9 medium that money can buy. This thing, on the other hand, is a monster. I love the 5120 because look at that mobility. I'm moving all over the place here. I'm chugging around the battlefield like a little can-do engine, just waiting between clips. And tanks like this Jag Tiger underestimate the quality of this tank at their very, very own peril. You can see we are still 2 tanks down. The Jag Tiger wants to come around the corner. He's got massive DPM. I've got 1,200 average alpha per 4 shells. The Jag wants to come around this corner. I'm going to track him. And I'm going to stick him again. I'm going to wait 1 shell. And then I'm going to clear it. Look at this thing accelerate. Look at it go. Look at it go. We're going to be hitting this guy at 50 kilometers an hour. Just shoving ourselves in his nose, driving him into the duck pond. He can't get away. He's panicking. He can't get the gun down. And by the time he can and can see our upper glaciers again, we're out. Now, we're in a very, very tough place here, but by all that, there's 3 tanks left and there's only me gone. But I just think this is a heavy tank. Imagine driving this on the front line like I did with the ST1. The Conqueror's a heavy tank. Imagine, you know, running around the battlefield like a medium, like I do with this thing in a Conqueror. You just can't. This is why you need to reassess the way you look at the game. Think about what your tank that you're driving right now can do. How many times have I heard people say the Panther 2 sucks? And yet I'll jump in the thing and have a field day because you know what you do with the Panther 2? You bloody vampire off other people's hit points pool. This guy, he doesn't have it wrong particularly. He's just, you know, got stuck with a really, really big tank. Oh, just one more little ram and all would have been fine. So, so close. So close. I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching. I don't mean to have a soliloquy. I don't mean to have a whinge. I just see so many people with such a stilted and jilted idea of what the tanks that they're driving can bring to the game. Assess what's going on with your vehicle. Does it have armor? Does it have a good gun? Does it have mobility? Those are the 3 things in the game that define what your tank is. Your firepower, your mobility, and your ability to take and trade shots. Think about that. Until next time, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.